Welcome to the NABS podcast. NABS is the support organisation for those working in advertising, marketing and media. I'm your host, Louise Stodie. Each week I'll be chatting with someone from our industry to find out how they support themselves and those around them through challenging times as well as the day-to-day. And it's all to help you support your own mental wellness. I can't wait to start chatting. This week our guest is Aimee Luther. Aimee Luther is Managing Director of the Liberty Guild. The Liberty Guild is an invitation-only curated association of the finest communication practitioners in the world. The business aims to give creatives and strategists a better work-life balance and more ownership over their careers. Aimee is a huge believer in kindness as a leadership style, and this philosophy infuses both her business and her voluntary work, which is lovely. We need more kindness in the world. So welcome, Aimee, to the NABS podcast. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you, Louise. Lovely to meet you. Thank you.
It's very lovely to have you on. I'm really looking forward to hearing about your approach to mental wellness and how you're helping freelancers in our industry who sometimes get a bit forgotten about. So it's good that they've got something they can go to. Let's start by thinking about what mental wellness looks like to you.
Yeah, I think the definition of mental wellness that I like best is that your mind is in order and functioning to your best interest. So you're able to think, feel and act in ways that create a positive impact on both your physical and social well-being. Personally, if I've slept, I can conquer the world. If I haven't, I can hardly function. And motherhood has been the biggest test of this. My partner, Tim, works for the RFU and so is away for the Rugby World Cup. And he's off again in January for the Six Nations. So I had to sort out my routine to keep myself in good mental health. So I had to go to bed an hour after Cosmo, my 18-month-old son, did at 8 p.m, knowing that I'd be up at 4 a.m. with a two-stone lump of gorgeousness attached to me. So I still got my hours of sleep, although I had no sort of social life, particularly at that time. And I think the notion of mental wellness can be brought into sharp focus when I think of a calm statistic. So I'm a trustee for Calm. And Cosmo is more likely to take his own life than die from any other single cause until he's in his mid-30s. It's awful. I mean, that is absolutely, blindsided me when I read that. 1 in 5 people have suicidal thoughts, and it's really good to normalise that. It's good to be to own up to feeling shit, but we need to do everything we can as an industry to stop people getting there and taking those thoughts into reality. So I think there's a huge sense of responsibility that we all have within the industry for each other, no matter where we are in the sitting on the office floor. So yeah, I think it's being able to think, feel and act in your own best interest.
Which then also helps you to act in other people's best interests as well. So then you're able to reflect in a more helpful manner on that really scary statistic and think, well, actually, how can I help to support Cosmo's mental wellness?
Exactly. And I think being a mum has further brought that need for empathy and understanding. I've been MD for over a decade, and I have always been very supportive of working parents and being flexible. But hand on heart, I had no idea how hard it was without feeling like you're either failing as a mate, failing as a colleague, failing as a mum, as a partner. It's a constant sort of pressure to remain good at everything. I was really good at what I was doing in all of those areas before I became a mum, and then having that wonderful thing happen and have a baby certainly threw it all up in the air for me.
I don't know how people do anything. Sometimes I just feel so paralysed by the fact that I've got all of this stuff to do and I'm too knackered to deal with any of it. I have a 6-year-old that I just do nothing. I just put my bum on that sofa and I think about the life I used to have while my child yells at me. That is working parenthood. It's great. It's great. For anyone listening who's thinking of doing it, you should definitely go ahead. But I have found that, because you and I are a similar age, we're in our 40s, and when I reflect back on when I started work 20 years ago, people were not talking about mental wellness in the workplace. And when I was being raised by parents, people were not talking about mental wellness at school. It was not part of an active parenting strategy. Whereas now, it's so very happily embedded increasingly in our parenting culture and our working culture.
I think in society, we're now seeing mental health almost coming into sort of equity with physical health. So kids are being brought up now to talk about their mental health in the same vein, with the same sort of openness that they would with their physical health, which is there's still a long way to go. But it's brilliant that that those are coming into balance. Certainly, when I started working with Calm 20 odd years ago, that wasn't the case. And the idea of someone being depressed was usually a young, moping teenager sort of lying in his bedroom, not wanting to get out of bed for a few days. And actually, we've blown all of those stereotypes apart. And it can happen to anybody, any gender, any age, any wherever you are in the world. And you can be super successful and still feel absolutely worthless. So it's very important that we're all aware of it, and we can lift each other up.
Yeah, absolutely. And two things there. Firstly, with NABS, we have the advice line and we have our other support services, and demand went up by 100% year on year just in Q1 2023 alone. The top reason why people are contacting us is for emotional support. We assist people across the board. Every year, demand goes up. So it's great that people feel that they've got somewhere to go. The fact that numbers are going up is both a testament to the fact that people feel actually it's okay to talk to someone about their mental wellness, and the fact that mental wellness challenges are rising. The other thing that I wanted to pick up on is something you said about being an MD. And is there anything in particular that challenges your mental wellness as a business leader? Like the responsibility of bringing in the business or making money or having people on the payroll?
And I'm going to be brutally honest with you, Louise. You know, I get terribly overwhelmed. I suffer from overwhelm almost daily by most things, and it's all a case of finding out sort of your own techniques to cope with it. I feel a great sense of responsibility for each and every person that we work with at the Guild. You know, they're all have rent to pay or mortgage or family or other responsibilities. And so the daily hunt for new business to keep everyone busy is a constant pressure, and one that I take very personally. And that comes with the job. But it's more than that, and it's more than the basics of leadership. To me, I think it's about setting an environment so that everybody can flourish and to be the best version of themselves. And in turn, within our creative world, they'll create the best work, and that's the best work for our clients. So it's in a roundabout way. It's absolutely in our interest. And you mentioned in your kind introduction, I'm an avid campaigner for kindness at work, and particularly within our industry. And I've had experience of both. We seem to oscillate from a warm maternal bosom to a downright torturous, depending on the department, the team, or the agency that you belong to. And I should make it clear that from the outset that I think simply being kind to one another is a pretty basic requirement for the human race to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Polite to that, and you have what should be the sort of minimum viable behaviour to be part of modern society. I think corporate kindness is what I'm really interested in, and showing how being kind in its broadest sense will have a positive impact, or does have a positive impact on a company's bottom line. You know, you have people stay longer. There's a greater retention of staff. You're not having to pay to recruit. You get better work out of happier people, et cetera, et cetera. And people want to work. You know, clients want to work with a happy, buoyant, creative business. So we're working actually with Lancaster University management school to prove that link between corporate kindness and fiscal health.
Kindness does so much for the individual as well. Like, there are studies that show that you feel better, your happiness levels are higher if you are kind to other people.
Yeah.
From your experience, what does kindness as a leadership style look like in real life, and how can managers across the board adopt this as part of their MO?
Yeah, and it's a good question. I think the nice and polite I've said are kind of givens. I think the sort of unlimited goat milk and marbling workshops have probably seen see their days. But I think it's about empathy, it's about compassion, and it's about benevolence. It's being aware of people's whole selves and acting accordingly. It's the manner in which you treat people. So if you know you've got parents or people with, disabled siblings or people that live far, far away, it's being understanding of what's going on in their world, in their lives, and not just the 9 to 5:30 that they're sitting either on a Zoom window or in an office somewhere. So I constantly strive to ensure that I create a colourful, eclectic, and nurturing environment. And knowing that we have that helps me relax and feel proud of the agency and every single person that sort of contributes to it. And like I said, that sort of fundamental and pervasive culture of kindness allows people the freedom to be their whole selves, to get that better work-life balance, something particularly post-COVID, which is we've really noticed. And like I said, to get better work. And, we are very proudly, as part of the service industry, we are only as good as our people. Their wonderful, eclectic, prolific, creative, colourful minds are exactly what gives us our very black and white competitive advantage. So we need to look after them. We need to allow them to be themselves. We need to have that empathy and that compassion to be the best we can be as an agency.
Yeah, absolutely. At NABS, we talk about there's not a one size fits all style of management, and it's really important to take a bespoke approach where you actually talk to your people, you find out what's going on for them, and then you can help them to flourish as appropriate.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, I have a desire to see the industry change, to be somewhere between that warm maternal bosom and that kind of fearful agency of old. And I think if you want to see the change, then you've got to be the change. And I think a good example of how we did this at the Liberty Guild was during lockdown in 2020, 2021. And we carried out a number of initiatives. The first one was we teamed up with a company called Hello Self, and we offered free private clinical psychotherapy to anyone within the guild who could benefit. Their lives, particularly as freelancers, had been turned upside down and work was being cut off every which way they looked. We extended that to our clients and even our suppliers and other agencies, and we picked up the tab. It was all completely anonymous, obviously.
What was the take up like?
It was good. It was surprisingly good that people put their hand up to say, yeah, I could do with a chat. We also had a permanent, what we called a window on the guild, fancy name for a permanent Zoom link that was open so everyone could be together, tell terrible jokes, but have the banter, the support, the inspiration that we all need as creative souls. So it wasn't about presenteeism; it was kind of about mutual support, and we still have that to today. We did a number of reboot camps. We offered little workshops for brands completely free. We offered 2-hour workshops for any brand that needed our strategic help because they had staff being furloughed. They're having a terrible time. So we got our elite talent to come and help them keep their heads above water, their brands above water. We even did something which was quite fun called Freedom for Kids. And it was kind of like a respite initiative. And we found that between school finishing at about 3:30 and them getting their work done at like 5:30, their kids were at home and just needed occupying.
Yeah.
So we did a competition, and they were sort of self-guided creative projects, and they're small people occupied. So it was things like making their own lava lamp and stuff in the kitchen cupboard, to stock frame animation, illustrated storybooks, and some mini entrepreneurs. They had to see how quickly they could grow a pound, i.e. by buying flour and water and making bread and selling it and stuff. It was great fun. So we did that sort of stuff. So it's more than just like I said, the immediate employer-employee relationship.
There's something really lovely about the last activity that you mentioned, because in it is the recognition that people have got lives, and that often involves kids or other caring responsibilities. And that's a way of drawing that all in, rather than asking people to make a separation in their head at a time when separation was just not possible. But that continues to this day with hybrid working, and there will be days when you're at home and the kids are at home.
Yeah.
And you can't just cut yourself off from your child asking you for something.
Yeah.
NABS will still have, if someone's got the kids at home, they'll come into the meeting and they'll say hi, and that's totally fine, and everybody loves it.
One of the lovely things I think about lockdown, and both from agency but also with clients, you got to know their partners, you got to see their kids, and suddenly the kind of facade of, the suit-wearing agency or the very sort of strict, cold clients was dropped, and we just became humans trying to change people's behaviour and buy more X and less Y or what have you. So I think to wrap that up, in terms of the advice that I give to other leaders and other managers, would be to stand up for your principles and have the same principles and values that you have outside of work, and bring them into the office, and know that those principles don't have to cost you anything. We're a B Corp because ethics matter. We offered that free psychiatric therapy because mental wellness matters. We carried on paying all of our contractors early, and we didn't furlough anyone or let anyone go, because people matter. So I think having that empathy, that compassion, that benevolence at work as much as you would outside of work is absolutely critical to business.
Yeah. And you mentioned something before about you might get it in some teams, but not in others. And I think it's really important for leaders to ensure that the theme of kindness and the importance of mental wellness is throughout the business. I haven't met anyone who says that attitudes towards this are consistent throughout their organization, and
No,
it shouldn't be a lottery.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it needs to come from both the top and the bottom, to make sure that everybody is supported. And when we talk about kindness, it doesn't need to be pink, maternal, gentle kindness. You can still be the hottest shop in the land, and produce the most incredible work and have the most incredible return on investment for your clients, etc., and be kind. It's not a one or other situation.
Exactly. Doesn't cost anything, but can be brilliant for your ROI. I should have asked you at the beginning of the chat, really, but here we are. Can you explain how the Liberty Guild works and how it helps to support the mental wellness of freelance creatives? I know that you've spoken about some specific initiatives that you've brought to your community, but the overarching mental wellness support would be really interesting to know about.
Yeah, so we've got nearly 400 creatives and strategists around the world, so in 28 countries. There's 2,300 hand lines and D&AD pencils amongst them, and 9 BAFTAs. So we've got the most creative and most diverse department in the world. And because we've knocked down, we're distributed, we've knocked down any physical barriers, any geographical barriers to being part of the best department. So people can live in Mumbai or Shanghai or New York or Bognor and work with us, work on the brilliant briefs and the brilliant clients that we work with, and produce the best work of their lives. We get diversity of thought for our clients. So if we were working on we worked on a hair product, and we were working across America and China and the UK, and we had people in all of those markets who understand what it's like to have Afro-Caribbean hair or Chinese hair, which is very different from my hair. So we ensure that you've got the right people working on each brief, and people can be the people they want to be. So we work with a husband and wife team who live up in a remote fishing village in Scotland, and they surf in the summer and sledge in the winter, and their kids are kind of free range and organic as a result. So they've kind of got their work-life balance sussed. So I think it's you don't need the short-term perks to ease the pain of working 70-hour weeks. And in fact, you can just have an environment that's colourful, eclectic, supportive, kind, etc., to produce the work that they want to be producing.
So in that sense, that's how it's supporting the mental wellness, because they're more able to choose the kind of lives that they want to live?
Exactly that. So if they can be, they're not feeling sort of oppressed and having to live in London in order to work in any of the big agencies or Manchester or whatever. They can live where they want. They can work on the briefs they choose to work on. We don't do pitching over the weekend, for example. So there's a lovely work-life balance. And if you can get that right, then everything else kind of falls into place. So yes, the COVID examples were sort of an extreme version of what we needed to do at that time. But generally, sort of day to day, we ensure that people are allowed to flourish and be the broader person that they want to be, whether that's where they live, what they work on.
You've got 400 people on the books, is that right? So if you haven't got all 400 working at the same time, so some of them might be, I don't know how you'd refer to it, on the bench or working on other products or projects, do you still have a mechanism where you're keeping in touch with all of them regularly to check in on them with mental wellness as part of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do. We check in regularly. So there's a sort of a group mechanic that we can all chat to them. We update them on what's going on in the world, what's going on in our business, and open the doors for them to tell us what they're up to. And they often have other side gigs going on and will freelance for other agencies. So they're not exclusively with us by the very nature of it. They're independent freelance talent. And we talk a lot about the benefits of being a freelance. You mentioned in the introduction that freelancers, particularly within the ad world, became a sort of sullied term.
Yeah.
And it was seen as a negative, whereas actually the history behind the freelancer was this champion guy that we brought into battle to win the battle, and then he'd go off. They were the heroes. And literally a freelancer. And so we're keen to bring that back and to celebrate the fact that these very senior people have chosen to live in a slightly different, live and work in a slightly different way.
So if you can get freelance life right and you can get the right support, then it's something that can actually work out pretty well. At this point, it's a good time to say that NAB's services are open to freelancers as well as people who are staffers. We welcome everyone, and our services are free because we're a charity. So you can come and join a workshop or attend a talk or anything that we've got. Have a look at our website and you'll be able to see how best we can help you. So you're running something where you're looking after a lot of people in Adlands and you're doing things to lift them up, but how does the Adland community lift you up?
It's a very good question, Louise, and one I pondered about. I'm not a member of any specific or official groups and forums. Maybe I should. There's wonderful things like Pregnant Then Screwed and all that sort of stuff, but I haven't. I'm not a signed up member of any specific groups. But I find being surrounded by equally colourful, odd, fallible, invariably kind souls is just the community I need. The people I work with are just a joy. And I mean that whether that's the freelancers or the core guild that I'm working with. day to day. And some of my greatest friends I sort of picked up along the way from when I was a grad at Ogilvy through B&B, and they lift me up regularly. And knowing that there is support both from the likes of Calm and from NABS is hugely comforting to know that if you do need it, they're literally a phone call away. NABS was introduced to me very early on when I was a graduate at Ogilvy and Mather, and I've remained a great fan.
How have NABS helped you over the years?
I haven't ever had to call on NABS. I was always looking forward to going to the nursing home, but I'm sad to hear that it exists. What a hoot! Can you imagine?
What's a lesson you've learned about how to support yourself?
I'll be brutally honest with you, Louise. I'm not very good at it. And I think on the outside, I appear to be a very social person, sort of a confident extrovert. But I feel very much the opposite. I need, and in fact, I crave solitude and sleep, as we mentioned earlier. So carving out time to decompress is really, really important for me. I manage the overwhelm, which I talked about earlier, with lists, brilliant, colourful diagrams and lists. And I think becoming a mum to Cosmo in my mid-40s kind of blew apart the plans I had to keep myself in good mental health. Everything was literally turned upside down and inside out. And I really struggled to see how being at home and doing fairly menial things for the 6 months mat leave I had could be so utterly exhausting, because I wasn't doing anything particularly that was worthy of being exhausting or didn't feel like it should be. I can run a business, but running a household with a baby is much, much harder. So what I've learnt to do, and I've been really militant at, is I always ensure I finish at 5:30 on the dot, and I mum until Cosmo goes off to sleep at about 7:30. And then I crack out the laptop and finish anything I need to finish off. So as far as he's concerned, whenever I'm with him, I'm not working.
You're with him. That's it. He's the focus.
Exactly. And that helps me focus on being the best I can be in both my role as a mum and my role at work, and really trying not to let them overlap where possible. Get support. I've got a brilliant lady that looks after Cosmo when he's not at nursery, and she's an absolute legend, my girl Friday. So, yeah, I think being brutally honest, I'm not brilliant. I constantly feel under pressure that I put on myself. I feel like I'm an absent friend. I find keeping a little boy alive somewhat difficult at times. But I'm waiting to get addicted to exercise, because apparently that's what happens. And I'm running my 4th London Marathon in 6 months. So I'm really
That's incredible. When do you get the time to train?
Well, I'm starting on the 1st of January, Louise, because I've got 5 months then. I'm hoping I get the running bug. Apparently that happens. It hasn't happened for my previous 3 attempts.
The fact that you're doing it a 4th time round suggests to me there might be some kind of bug involved at this point.
Yes. No, stupidity. I sort of forget it. I think the last time was about 10 years ago. And I'm terrible. Every time I've done it, I've been absolutely terrible. There were 37,500 people that started last time, and only 20 finished after me. I mean, that is how bad I am.
Were you running it the year that someone was in a Victorian diving suit?
Yes. I think I beat him because he took about 3 days.
Yeah.
People with one limb beat me. Yes, it's. I'm raising money for charity, and I'll do it regardless.
Well, I think you are fabulous for finding the time to do that, in amongst being an MD, looking after so many people in the industry, and also looking after your young son as well. So maybe your mental wellness lesson is to give yourself a break and a bit of a clap on the back.
Thank you.
Aimee, it's been absolutely lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Absolute pleasure, Louise. Thank you, and thanks, NABS, for having me.
You're welcome.